And I believe that's the same thing in what God's called you into. Nevertheless, even though these businesses, whether small or great or big, see, and you made a statement just now, covering. Covering is a very important issue. You know, whenever we go, people say, where do you go to church? They say, well, I don't. Well, where's your covering?
Exactly, because covering is not, see, a lot of people will confuse covering with control. Covering should not be a smothering. Covering should be an enabler.
There's a difference in covering and smothering.
There's a difference, and covering is a good thing. It is having people that know you, and you know them. It implies accountability. It implies relationship. It implies a covenant. When the enemy comes against you, he's coming against me as your covering, for example. And I wanted to kind of just touch a little bit about the nets issue. You know, Jesus told Peter to cast your nets, plural, on the other side. And Peter only had one net that he cast, and it was full, we know. And so what happened is that the master's input was invited into that business.
Yes.
New tactics and strategies were given. Cast your net on the other side, and the school of fish saw that net and made a beeline for it. And it's also relating when Jesus responded to Peter, when Peter said they want our taxes. And Jesus said, go fishing. Go a-fishing. And the first fish you catch, there will be a coin in its mouth. And guess what? This expert fisherman cast his line out, and there was a fish that was marked from its time that it was born, that had this coin inside of it, which was the answer, which was the breakthrough, and that fish made a beeline for that hook. And that's the answers. That's the provision that God has for each and every one of us.
Amen.
You know, when we have that covering.
Amen. And you know that you made a statement, said the fish made a beeline for that net. Now, for them fish to make a beeline for a net, that net had to be attractive.
There you go.
That's right.
There had to be something about that net to draw them to it.
It was gold in it.
It was a gold. Something about that net drew them to it. And you know, but he said, "At thy word," and that was all Jesus said, was put it on the other side.
Yes.
And see, and sometimes, you know, in business, and you know, you get locked into a place, you feel like I'm not growing, it's not going. I feel like I have an anchor tied to me. It's almost, you know, some businesses begin to drown because they can just barely get the head and get a gulp on air, and they back down, come back up and get another gulp, and they're coming down. But when they're under a covering and through the prayer and fasting and the intercession that's going forth for these businesses, and you know, I'm gonna say from my viewpoint, this is a very powerful weapon against the devil, because people don't realize how strong prayer is. Prayer is so strong. Why did Satan have a woman to take it out of school? Because it was powerful. It was keeping the children off of drugs. It was powerful. It was keeping people, the murder spirit wasn't in the schoolhouse. There wasn't nobody carrying guns in those days when the prayer was in the school. That was a powerful weapon. But when that weapon was taken out, then what took over? Sex, drugs, rock and roll, and everything else.
Yes.
It took over because the weapon was removed. And God wants to put that weapon back into place.
He does.
In putting that weapon back in, that God has chose you to spearhead this. Because I'm sure people's doing this, but God had, and you pastored up to this point, and God took you out of the pastoral area and said, start pastoring the businesses.